Welcome, everybody, to the First Name Basis podcast. This is where we talk with industry leaders, not only about tech, but about times of the day. And with me today, I got a friend of mine. I call him my brother, Jay Rosenzweig, who's the founder and CEO of the Rosenzweig and Company. Jay, welcome to the podcast.
Good to see you, brother. Always good to see your face and hear your beautiful voice.
I miss you and your family, your beautiful family, so much, man.
Me too.
I can't wait for us to be able to go to Soda and enjoy a nice dinner. And this time it's on me.
We'll see about that.
I know. Me and you, we got to, for those of you who don't know, Jay and I, we fight over the bill all the time. Jay, how have things been going, man? This has really been a life-changing experience for most of us.
Yeah.
How have you been hanging in there?
It's been really quite incredible in so many ways. We've been hunkered down, as I was saying to you earlier, for the last few months, my wife and I and our 3 kids, and we've been good citizens. We haven't really gone much anywhere, and we haven't socialized much either. But it's been a real time to reflect and meditate on those things that are really important in life. Luckily, we've all been healthy. So
that's the silver lining in this, is that we've actually gotten out of our rat race and got to spend time with loved ones and just actually, I mean, over-index to a point where you may want to kill each other at times, but that's family, right?
Yeah. Well, we've been forced to ground, and the common theme, I think, is breathing. Taking a breath. Tragically, the George Floyd story revolves around breath. The environment itself, I think, is replenishing itself, and you're seeing dolphins jumping up and down in turquoise waterways that hadn't been around for 30, 40 years. So the earth itself is able to take a breath. And
you're able to see mountaintops from cities that you would never be able to see them because of all of our pollution and the destruction we cause. Exactly.
So we're taking a breath in actuality and also metaphorically speaking. And I think I think when we come out of it, it'll be very healthy for all of us. And I think a lot of behaviors will be changed socially in the workplace, etc.
Absolutely. I know for myself, I'm on an airplane every other day and traveling, and I've just been like that for so long. It's been refreshing to take a step back and go, hey, what's actually really important here? Do I really need to take that extra flight? Is there another way we could still do? I mean, nothing's going to beat human connection and being face-to-face, but being able to prioritize the other things in your life that sometimes especially myself, self-reflection, I took granted for.
100%. Yeah. And selfishly, like my kids, as I was saying, they're kind of bummed that their summer plans have sort of fallen through. But selfishly, I've enjoyed the time with them really so much, and they have as well. So it's just a matter of shifting gears and adapting to the realities of today and embracing it rather than sort of lying in bed, thinking, woe is me.
Right. Well, you always want to say, you say your kids are your best friends, and you truly mean
Absolutely.
it. You never say, hey, I don't want to hang with my kids. Then vice versa, your kids love hanging with you.
We're very
awesome
grateful.
It's awesome to see. You mentioned something that really struck a nerve in a lot of us, and that was George Floyd. You've been one of the biggest advocates for humanitarian grounds for a very long time. You've had a publication that you've devoted research and time on based on human rights. And so I wanted to first ask you, when you saw that, what went through your mind? Because what went through my mind was A, a lot of anger, but B, I gotta say, within the first 5 minutes of seeing that, I was like, all that hard work that Jay does and this type of bullshit still happens in our society.
Yeah, I mean, like you, I was completely enraged. I was shocked. I mean, what particularly was shocking was to see this cop with his hand in his pocket with this sort of casual facial expression. It's just absolutely it's unbelievable. Like if it's the kind of thing, like if you didn't see it, you wouldn't believe it happened. That's why video is so important. It's not like as you know, it's not like this kind of violence has spiked in a way against Black people in the U.S., for example. It's just, it hasn't been caught on video.
Yeah.
So, you know, from a prosecution standpoint and from a social justice standpoint, you know, people and the government and the judges lean on the side of believing the cop when the cop says, oh, I had to defend myself, or, you know, there was an accident or whatever. But I just found it absolutely enraging. I do think, again, coming out of that, the activism that we've seen has been extremely heartwarming, but not only heartwarming, I think that change needs to happen from the bottom up. And all of the protests and all of the outcry, I think will end up providing us with much needed change. I am optimistic.
Talk to me, Jay. You got a really cool history, and I want our listeners to understand from you. One of the things I got such admiration for is the amount of effort you've put in human rights, and you come out with a report every year. And not only that, even your past legal career in doing that. Let the viewers and the audience know about the work that you've done in this space.
Yeah, so long story short, I'm born and raised in Montreal. I studied at McGill University. I did a philosophy degree and 2 law degrees at McGill. And in the law school, I met a really life-changing mentor named Erwin Kotler, who's an international human rights champion. He represented people like Nelson Mandela and Natan Sharansky back in the day. And he went on to become Canada's Attorney General and Minister of Justice. And in that role, he enacted all kinds of progressive laws, including same-sex marriage. He transformed our Supreme Court into the most gender representative in the world. He was the first man on the Women's Caucus in Parliament. And if you fast forward to today, he has an organization called the Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights. And we are we are working together on all kinds of important projects in that regard. I'm a very active board member of his, and we are representing the Nelson Mandelas of today all around the world. But to rewind, when I graduated law school, I moved to Toronto, and I worked at a firm that probably most prominently represented people who were wrongfully convicted, people like Guy Paul Morin, Milgard. I don't know if you remember those cases.
Yes, of course.
And Kotler at the time was actually Minister of Justice, freeing these prisoners. He freed more people wrongfully convicted in 1 year, more than any of the previous ministers combined. And luckily at the time, DNA technology was becoming more and more reliable, and the firm was able to be successful in a lot of cases because of that.
Because of that technology.
Yeah, and then I kind of pivoted, a big pivot into the business world, into the world of talent strategy and executive talent management, executive team building. And it got me thinking, inspired by the work my mentor was doing in Parliament, what is the status of women in top levels in the corporate world? And so in 2006, I decided to look at, public companies have to disclose the top paid executive officers within their ranks, and the top 5 executives. So I looked at the top 100 publicly traded companies and the 5 top executive officers within each of these companies, to determine what percentage of the top 500 executives were female. I thought the numbers would be low, but I didn't realize how low. It was 4.6% our first year. If you fast forward
and that was
today,
2006.
Yeah.
You think hey, the movement was much better by then, right?
Yeah.
So no, it's not the case.
And the gender diversity push wasn't really prevalent then. And people would kind of look at me funny, like, why are you as a man bothering to look at this issue? So
I had the same question. I got criticized why when we did the takeover conference and you so graciously were one of the opening keynotes to talk about gender diversity. They were like, well, why are you putting a dude up there? I'm like, wait until you hear him talk.
Well, look, we're all in it together. And it actually relates to the racial injustice piece as well. We all have to fight injustice together. It can't be half of the population. In fact, in a way, men can be more effective in certain ways. So I determined that given the numbers are so low, I'm going to do this report every single year for the rest of my life until hopefully one day I work my way out of a job.
Love it.
It's not only the statistics I provide, but it offshoots of it relate to human rights and women's rights, and I've gotten amazing contributions over the year. My last report had contributions and endorsements from people like Justin Trudeau and Sheryl Sandberg and Deepak Chopra and Elisa Milano and Andrew Yang,
That's great
CEOs
because
of
they
banks.
amplify your message. I mean, the essence of the
Exactly.
report is the message and the stats that you have in there.
Exactly. Yeah. So to amplify the discussion in a broader sense, and we're doing a lot of work for women's rights and the rights of girls internationally through the Raoul Wallenberg Center, the Human Rights Board I'm on. So it all kind of interconnects. And I'm now on the advisory board of an organization called Dreammaker Ventures, which will be the first Black-led innovation fund. It's one thing from a venture capital fund. It's one thing to fight for social justice, which is the most important aspect of it. But it's also important, I think, to facilitate the elevation of individuals who have struggled with, through no fault of their own, upward mobility. So that's a cause that's important to me from an economic standpoint. I'm also part of a venture fund out of New York called Clearstone, which again invests in businesses that facilitate upward mobility through two areas, fintech and edtech.
Really cool. Really cool. One of these things that you're talking about is this grassroots movement. Like, hey, we don't got to wait for the powers of be to start making change. Let's all become advocates. And as a people, as a movement, we could start making change from the ground up. What are some of the initiatives that you are seeing that people are doing that are becoming really effective, that are starting to become more effective? I'll talk to you a little bit about what we're doing in a sec, but I'd love to hear your opinion first.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different movements happening. Like one of my, just to get a little bit political, one of my partners whose board I sit on that helps actually refugees and integrate refugees into society, and we're building actually community centers for refugees and educational centers, etc. He actually developed a program called Defeat the Tweet. As we know, Donald Trump tweets a lot. So he's gotten a movement going called Defeat the Tweet, that every time Donald Trump tweets, money is donated towards
refugees.
causes that actually help racial injustice and the Black community.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So
awesome.
The movement has actually raised almost $1 million so far, and it just keeps going and going and going.
Well,
so
let's get him on more tweet storms. This is great.
I'll send you the information. It's absolutely brilliant. So every time he tweets, it's like, thanks, President Trump. That's another, $100,000 that's been donated to this place. Another 20,000 is going to this place. So it's just absolutely amazing, and it just keeps compounding and compounding.
Yeah, we're starting to see. Yeah. So I was really taken back by the George Floyd video, as everybody else. It was actually another friend, Dule Hill, who posted it. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my, again, just the dehumanization of what what those cops were doing, really struck a nerve. And I didn't know what I should be doing or what I could be doing in focusing our efforts. And I got a call from Nahal from ENIAC Ventures, and Nahal from New York gives me a call, and he's like, Sheetal, I think I got something here for that I'd like you to get involved with. And we call it the 100K pledge. And it is, how could you, with your influence and your means, actually be able to make an impact of something small, 100K over the next 10 years? And so could you invest $10,000 a year of your money or your time mentoring someone? Or even better yet, what if you just made hires and you started hiring people from the Black community, and you do that over 10 years? And if we get 1,000 people signed up for the pledge, then off we go at 100K each over the next 10 years. You got well over $1 billion worth of change. And I go, yeah, that's an awesome idea. How could we mobilize it? And we started building a platform out where people can now, we're going to be launching it very soon. And we
Very cool.
like, hey, let's get TribalScale engineers, product people involved, and let's start building this product out. And we got about 100 founding members right now, super influential people, again, like you said, who are going to be able to magnify the message and get the message out, but more importantly, actually pledge and do that. And it doesn't have to only be 10,000. It's pretty cool. I look at our founding members and they're like, hey, you know, I could do upwards of 250,000 a year for the next 10 years.
That sounds so cool. Send me information when you're able to.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I'd be more than happy to support and share it with my network.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would love to have you involved and have your support involved in this initiative. Switching gears a little bit, you've been working with a lot of executives, and one of the things I love to do is have these executives on here and talk about what's top of mind for them in this pandemic. What are you seeing at the C-suite, Jay? I mean, you work with some of the largest enterprises all across the world, just not in North America. What are these top level C-level executives have top of mind right now? What's keeping them up at night?
Yeah, it's really rough out there. It's really, really rough out there. You know, our business thrives when the economy's thriving and businesses are growing and thriving. You know, there's been pretty much a shutdown of hiring at the most senior levels. Mm-hmm. If anything, there's furloughing and there's layoffs. And
it's the opposite side right now.
It's the opposite side. So it's pretty rough out there. I'm getting an exponential amount of resumes inbound from some of the most impressive people you would ever imagine, who've never had this problem before in terms of, hey Jay, like you know, for the first time in my life, I'm not sure what to do. You know, I'm in the hospitality sector. I'm screwed. Like, how do I pivot? So it's been a bit of a bloodbath, frankly, and I've spent a lot of time just counseling and coaching senior executives on, hey, you know, what do I do next, kind of thing, and that's not my business. My business is the opposite. My business is getting mandates from companies, but I just figure that what goes around comes around, and if I was able to help anybody, like, you know, it'll only bode well from a karma point of view, most importantly, but also, you know, when we eventually get out of this craziness.
Well, one of the things I was really excited to have you on and talk about was you've been through a couple of recessions, and you got the eyes and ears of the top C-level executives. Let's even just go back to even 2008. What did the best? What are some good? What are some things that executives did in that downturn that were really smart? Like, we know about all the failures that have happened, but what are some things that top executives did that were different than everybody else that actually made them more successful? They found the opportunity in the chaos.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Finding opportunity in the chaos, finding where, for example, the world of tech is headed. You know, maybe back in the day, it meant being visionary about doubling down on relatively new apps, relatively new social media platforms from an advertising point of view. It's just a matter of, I say, like I said earlier, not sort of lying in bed, sort of as if you got hit over the head with a bat, more right. So trying to figure out, how do I pivot? Where do I go? But even for up and coming executives, I always say to them, you know, you've got to be as humble as you possibly can be, and do whatever the hell it takes to endear yourself to a board of directors, to a CEO that you're working with, to a partner you're working with, and no job is beneath you. I remember, for example,
it's a powerful statement, especially for a lot of people coming up in organizations, right? Like, you see it all the time. That's not my job, and you can't be saying that. Yeah.
Oh man, the minute I hear somebody say that's not my job is the minute I try to figure out an exit.
An exit plan, yeah.
An exit plan for that individual. Yeah. Like, I remember I hired a new associate And the first day was actually a pretty long day. It went into the night. And he performed actually really well that first day, including attitudinally, which is most important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that clinched it for me when I realized like this guy's a keeper, he asked me at the end of the night as we're walking out, hey, who takes out the garbage? Like, do you need some help with that? I'm like, no, don't worry, we have a cleaning service. But it's just that kind of mentality that means so much to me, you know.
Absolutely.
So.
In the 2008 recession, I was working with a company called Mar Labs, and Balram, one of the founders there, he said something to me that changed my whole view on downturns. And he was like, Sheetal, business might be down right now, but don't worry about that. We got a lot of opportunity. And I was like, and how so? And he goes, there's no better time than now to go find the best talent that's out there.
That's true. Absolutely.
Like, we could handpick who we want to bring into this organization, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to come into our organization right now.
Exactly.
So we should double down on the opposite. Let's not let people go. Let's bring in the talent that we really should harness for the future of our org. And I was taken back by that. And that,
if you have the wherewithal to be able to do it, now is a great time, because unfortunately a lot of great businesses are shut down, and there's some great talent out there. There's no question about it. I mean, I've always advised my clients to draft great athletes, regardless of position. So if there's a great athlete out there, just bring them on board. It's, you know, I was never one to be too worried about boxes, because if you've got a great athlete with a great head on their shoulders, you want
to figure it out.
Yeah, you want them.
Yeah. And they'll bring some different perspective of thinking that maybe if you're thinking in the terms of boxes, they may come and say, hey, if we color outside of your lines right now, we actually could find more opportunity.
100%. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jay, I want to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want everybody to get to know you a little better. So I'm gonna throw some rapid fire questions at you. And really, it's just to get to know you. So whatever comes at the top of your head, just give us the answer. If you could go on vacation with your beautiful family right now, where would you go and why?
Israel.
Right.
Israel.
That's where we actually met.
That's where we met.
That's where we met.
It's got my mind on Israel, but I mean, it's the most magical place in the world to me. So that's probably where we'd go first.
I love it. What have you been binge watching?
I actually brought back Homeland for my boy. So I've actually watched all of Homeland, and we're binging it again.
Very
have you
cool.
seen Homeland? Are you into Homeland?
I have seen Homeland. You know, I guess in like beginning of season 3, for some reason I stopped watching. My schedule just took over. But now you're giving me inspiration to go
highly
back
recommend
and watch it.
Oh man, it's like endless hours of pleasure. It's so high quality.
If there was an animal that you could relate yourself to, what would that animal be?
Oh man!
I told you I'm gonna throw you some curveballs, man.
Chimpanzee.
And why is that? I love that answer from you.
I think back to I was so fortunate to have been a part of Jane Goodall's 85th birthday in LA, and I was actually, sadly, I was a co-host of her 86th birthday, which had to be put off because of COVID. And I've just been watching the wonderful work that she's done with chimpanzees, and how adorable they are and how brilliant they are. Their brain is so close to the human brain. Someone at her party last year asked her, like, do you love all chimpanzees? And she said, well, no. I find some lovely and I get along well with them. I find others extremely annoying.
Some are assholes.
And I just can't, just like humans, because that's how close they are to you. Like they have the mind to be able to be deceptive and, and all the different things and perhaps a little bit mean. So I don't know. I find chimpanzees very, very.
That's pretty timely. It was just over this weekend. I was watching a clip of her releasing a chimpanzee into the wild, and it came out of its cage.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, and it didn't go anywhere. It just went and just wanted to hug her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's an absolutely amazing woman. Extreme wisdom that woman has. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I'm promoting small businesses, and so we mentioned Soto Soto already, so they already got a shout out. But what's another restaurant that you would like to go to in a safe manner and entertain the way you do? You're one to bring these awesome dinners together. So Jay was going to host another awesome dinner. Where would you go?
Well, I'll tell you a place that's near my house in North York. The food is outstanding, and the people there are really the nicest people. Very warm. It's like very homegrown kind of food, and it's called Paese. I don't know if you're familiar with Paese, but
Okay,
I would highly recommend it. It's on kind of Bathurst and Wilson area.
cool.
It's outstanding, and actually, they turned their parking lot into kind of
Into
the
a patio.
restaurant, and it looks really great. And they also have a food truck for lunch and dinner. Really cool
Cool.
place, Paese.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Jay. Let's get back to some business here. Um, let's say I've just lost my job. I'm taking a look out there in the market, as you even said. Most companies aren't hiring; they're doing the opposite right now. Kind of feel down on my luck. What's your advice? And I know you take so much time to talk to so many candidates and pour your heart out into them. What are you telling them to do?
Well, there's a lot of different things you can do. First of all, it's a good time to try to step back, as we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, and reset and try to understand really who you are, what's most important to you, and where you want to be in life and also career.
Mhm.
And then try and map in terms of where you want to be to which companies out there would have that kind of path for you, and find out who's the head of human resources, find out who's the head of the business unit that you'd eventually want to be in or lead one day, and try to reach out to them and do a big volume of reach outs. Mostly on LinkedIn, I would say, is probably the best platform, and see what arises from that. But the other thing I'd say along the lines of being humble is, difficult times means taking difficult measures. So there are jobs out there. It might not be the long-term job for you, whether it be in delivery or e-commerce, or there's all kinds of opportunities, I think, to take lower level jobs, maybe even in the pharmaceutical business. But, at the end of the day, if you have to pay the bills, go out and do whatever you need to do to make a buck. And by the
Right.
way, when we all come out of this, that kind of narrative is one that me as a high-end recruiter, and I think my most valuable clients would look at as a positive, like, wow, this person doesn't just sit back and cry. They do what they need to do, and
They're a problem solver.
it'll
They
go
solve
well.
for that
Yeah,
situation.
they
Yeah.
do what they have to do.
I think
So just do anything to make a buck in the meantime.
a key takeaway that I want to take away from this conversation is Farhan and I were talking about like what we've done in the past when we've been
Yeah.
fired or let go or
Mhm.
whatever has happened is, and you just echoed it right now too, is don't spray and pray. Just don't go out and apply to everything.
Yeah.
Really focus on like who you should be targeting, why you want to work with them, what value are you going to bring to that person, even in the outreach. Like don't just fire off
Oh,
blanket.
100%.
I mean, you and I probably get 1,000 LinkedIn acquired requests a year,
Yeah.
if not more. And most of them are just like, you have no idea why this person's requesting, looking like, be really tailored in your messaging
100%.
and give more than you want to receive, right?
Exactly. And by the way, for the longer term job, if you can do it,
Mm-hmm.
work for free. Work for free just to get in. I remember the
I've
gold
done it.
medalist. Yeah,
I've done that. Yeah.
me too.
You've
The
done it.
gold
Yeah.
the gold medalist in my law class wanted to get into movies, and he was just, I've got to get into movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he was getting all kinds of offers from every Bay Street law firm. He was working at a Bay Street law firm, but was miserable. I introduced him to someone in the movie distribution business, and
Right.
that guy said to Randy, I can't afford you, but Randy's like, I don't care. I'm gonna drop this great salary that I have. I'm gonna work for you for free because I have to get into the movie business.
Yeah.
And within 3 to 6 months, maybe even earlier, he impressed Jeff so much that he began getting paid, and they became partners, and eventually they were absorbed by Lionsgate, and then they started their own distribution business, which was bought. And he's been in the
Amazing.
movie business and he's producing amazing
And he's really
movies.
successful now.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and there's a million other stories like that. So, work for free if you can to get into the lane that you actually are passionate about.
I agree. I mean, that was a big game changer for me in my career. I left a job where I was making a pretty lucrative salary and took a 50% pay cut and threw away a job title I didn't have, just so I could go learn. And I look back on it, that was a pinnacle choice. I mean, it was tough at the time, being married with a mortgage and everything, but I look back on that was the best decision I've ever made, because it put me in a position to be where I am now.
Yeah.
And happy in what I'm doing now, right?
100%.
I'm doing what I wake up every morning. It doesn't feel like work. It's passion.
I'm hoping we're shifting more towards a culture, and you hear a lot of this from Gary Vee, who's done a great job with this, in terms of telling young people, don't give two craps about what other people think.
Yeah,
Just be
absolutely.
you. Just be you, because a lot of people, I think, make mistakes because they're worried what other people might think about the various decisions they're making.
And
Just
Gary
follow
Vee,
your passion.
he says a lot of awesome things. I love listening to him. He kind of talks like me. He'll swear off the cuff and just be super blunt about it. But one of the things he says is, be vulnerable, put yourself out there, and
100%.
who gives a shit what anybody else says about you? You're actually doing something.
And the more vulnerable you are, the more people who will want to follow you.
Yeah,
people don't realize that.
And
the flexing is a turnoff.
Or even, I mean, I say this to our staff all the time. I'm like, let's go out there and push our thought leadership. And a lot of times the pushback is, and I get it, they're like, what if I'm not right? And I'm like, who gives a flying F if you're right or wrong? At least you have an opinion.
You're right.
And if somebody's going to come and educate you as to why you're wrong, well, you just learn from them.
100%.
Right? That's actually a good thing. You can have a healthy debate and change your mind. You don't have to. I think our political climate has really gone into you have to stick to your guns and play to one side no matter what. And I'm like, it's okay to change your mind afterwards and be wrong about something. Be humble, as you said before. You still investing?
Yeah.
Have you done any investments during this
pandemic?
A
little bit here and there. Nothing too big. I've been enjoying doing the Upward Mobility Fund, Clearstone, so a little bit there. Joining some more advisory boards. I'm seeing some opportunities in the crypto space, which I continue to think that over the long haul is a place to be. So I was fortunate to get into an opportunity in the crypto space, which hopefully will turn out well. So a little bit here and there, but I'm also trying to be cautious and preserve my capital at the same time.
Of course, we don't know how long this is going to last, and I think that's a big concern for every executive I talk to. Is we're hoarding cash right now, Sheetal, and because we don't know how long. Like when's this going to stop, and when we're going to need that cash became king, right? What's your favorite? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but I do think there's certain areas that are worth looking at, including crypto, telehealth. We actually had a nice little exit. Actually, one telehealth company we're invested in Silicon Valley.
Could you talk about it?
I think gaming. Pardon me.
Could you talk about it?
Yeah, a company called Physera, run by, if you guys can Google it, run by a friend from Montreal, actually, named Dan Rubenstein, who was a great student. He ended up going to Stanford from Montreal and got a PhD, I think, in statistics, something like that, and built up a business which he sold to Texas Instruments, ended up working as a product manager at Google and then Facebook. I think he did a bunch of work with Sheryl Sandberg, and he started this telehealth business called Physera, which helps people with muscular and skeletal problems. The original premise was that there's an opportunity to help individuals who have these problems, because very often surgeons will default to surgery, whereas physical therapy
That doesn't surprise me.
Exactly.
Surgeons default to what they know, surgery.
Exactly. And it's pretty lucrative, particularly in the United States.
For sure.
But in certain cases, physical therapy might have been equally as effective or perhaps more effective. So this app actually helped with that kind of process and ongoing training and whatnot. So a business called Omada Health
Yes.
bought them during COVID. So it was a nice little win. And as a follow-on, we now have shares in Omada. And,
amazing. And that's a great company.
Yeah, and the Fazera people will continue doing their thing under the resources of Omada, which will really help them to accelerate further.
For sure.
Yeah,
What's your favorite investment? I mean, you and I actually have a couple shared ones that we sit together on, but what's your favorite investment that you made?
Well, I have shares in Hyperloop, which is kind of a cool technology. The idea is that it's like the next dimension in transportation. It's this sort of pneumatic tube, which will go the speed of sound. So you can hop in this Hyperloop in Toronto and be in Montreal in a half an hour, completely environmentally friendly. They say it'll be the safest mode of transportation, weatherproof, etc. So that's kind of a cool one. Cover Us out of New York is a really cool one, run by my good buddy Chris Seeley, who's the former COO of George Soros's Institute for New Economic Thinking. The idea behind Cover Us is that pharmaceuticals have historically exploited the health data of individuals. The concept behind this is to allow the individual to take fuller control of their healthcare journey and the data related to it, and perhaps profit if they choose to from their data. So all kinds of benefits from that. A third one, I would say, I mean, I love all of them. They're like your babies, but I'll give you one more.
Yeah.
I'm on the advisory board of an organization, a private equity firm, kind of out of LA, called Full Cycle, run by a good friend of mine, Ibrahim Al Husseini, who's an amazing guy. And we are investing in businesses whose mission is to reverse climate change. So one of the businesses we're invested in, for example, turns waste into clean energy. So as you can tell, what I'm most interested in today is investing in businesses that will have massive impact on our society. So the intersection of profit and purpose, the intersection of my passions for human rights and helping people and entrepreneurship.
And you're seeing this become a trend. I mean, you know, you got organizations like, I guess Tom's could be like the most famous one, right? You know, you look at Tom's and these companies that are actually saying, hey, we're going to not only be a great company, you're going to love our balance sheet, but we're going to create social good. We're going to make a social impact.
A friend of mine put it well. He sees a future where there won't be any consumer products without purpose attached to them. So when you go to a 7-Eleven and you see four Coke bottles, one is going to say Sick Kids Hospital.
This other Pepsi bottle could be for malaria, whatever it may be.
Exactly. We're going into overdrive when it comes to profit and purpose, especially as regards consumer goods. And I think it's a very, very exciting thing.
Cool. Jay, I got an online question. What do you look for in a founder?
Very good question. So first of all, I look for a track record. If possible, I don't discount somebody if they're really young and they're on their first project, but certainly if they have a track record, that's interesting to me.
What do you mean by that? Let's deep dive a little bit into that. What's an interesting track record? Because I'm guessing I know you. That doesn't necessarily mean you were successful.
Right, right. Well, I mean, look, I'm a capitalist and an entrepreneur at the same time. So, if someone were to say to me, I built two businesses, one of them, 20x to Google and the other one 50x to Facebook, my ears will perk up,
Of
right?
course, of course.
But I do at the same time want to know that they have a track record of integrity, and I'd probably do kind of an interview of the founder in a similar way that I do an interview of a CEO candidate.
Mhm.
And one of the things which surprised people is probably top of my list is humility. So when I'm interviewing somebody and they're talking about their track record of success, and it's all about the I,
Mhm.
and there's nothing about, I
Team.
got lucky. There were market wins in my direction. I had a fantastic team. Even giving praise on a corporate level to a predecessor
Mhm.
that may have taken a business, or even in an earlier stage business, like, yeah, the founder did an absolutely outstanding job taking the business to 10 million. I guess the VCs thought I was the right guy to take it the next steps, but you got to give credit where credit is due. If
Mhm.
it's all about the I get turned off pretty quickly. So I'd say humility is a big curiosity, the ability to pivot, because inevitably
You're gonna have to.
you're going to end up pivoting
You're gonna end up
somehow.
pivoting.
So
Yeah.
ingenuity, warmth. I like people who are kind and compassionate and bring a certain wisdom, and humility is related to that. So I might not be as scientific, let's say, as other investors are, but those are kind of the things that are important to me. And if you layer over that, some massive financial wins, I'm listening.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, of course, of course. So, I mean, we got a president.
And by the way, sorry to interrupt. Of course, the idea has to be one I believe in, and ideally, there's some sort of impact. Yeah,
I, we got that part from you
yeah,
already.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to go a little political right now. We got a president in the U.S. Who is doing the opposite of what you just said. He will always talk about not give credit to any predecessor, and then not take responsibility when shit goes wrong on his watch. Also, what kind of impact do you think that's going to do for the people growing up and looking up to him or watching him, learning from him? Like, how do you see the next 10 years? Like what do you see is going to happen in the next 10 years because of
Yeah,
this influence?
yeah.
I mean, it's arguably, as we say, the most powerful person in the world.
Yeah, he is a leader of the so-called leader of the free world. I don't know. I mean, sadly, I think he's bringing down the status of America in a lot of ways. But America is so powerful and resilient that I think it will come back. I think he's a terrible role model, just an
Yeah.
awful role model. He's clearly a model of someone who's broken in a lot of ways, and I feel for him in that sense. But he's really a danger to the United States and the world. And the young people that I interact with are aligned. There's very few young people who I know who are like, yeah, he's a tough guy. He's the way to go. Like, quite the opposite. Like, he's the picture of weakness to me,
Right.
and somehow stumbled into the most powerful position in the world. In terms of predicting what happens moving forward, it's really important to get him out. And all indications are that he's falling back pretty badly. So whoever is campaigning against him, including my buddy who's doing Defeat the Tweet, needs to keep their foot on the gas. My prediction is he'll lose, although I'm afraid to say that because I don't want to jinx it. And hopefully we'll bring a little bit more normalcy back as quickly as we can. I'm not necessarily a massive endorser of Joe Biden, but he'll bring some normalcy back and surround himself, I think, with some good people,
Right.
and anything's better than what we're enduring right now, and what my American friends are enduring.
It's tough, right? I mean, I remember sitting with my uncle who lived in DC back, and this is back in 2003. It was just before the Iraq War when Bush was in power. And I was like, hey, you guys are about to go to war, and, does it make sense? And he looked at me and he goes, are you kidding me? If the president says we need to go to war, he doesn't take that lightly. And if the president says, then you fall in line and you do what the president needs you to do. And, that high regard for that office, I think, has just been demolished now, where you can't even believe a word that comes out of the president's office. Right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, two things. It's always dangerous to say, if the president is doing this, we've got to be behind them. We've got to back it. And we've seen through history, including the genocides over history, that have happened because of that. But secondly, I think even someone who makes that statement about the president in general may not have that same point of view when it comes to Trump, because he's so out of bounds that as you say, like how could you back anything?
Jay, we got a couple minutes left. I just wanted to end off by hearing your thoughts on what you think is going to happen for Canada in particular. I know we got a global audience here, but you and I being Canadian, what's it going to look like for Canada to come out of this pandemic? What are the challenges we're going to face coming out of it? And what should we anticipate in front of us? What's coming?
So comparatively speaking, I think Canada is in really great shape on the world stage. I love this country, and I'm so proud of this country. I'm so proud of all the measures that we've all done as citizens of the country to flatten the curve, etc. Even we talked about 2008, because of our conservative nature. Even the banks were doing okay.
The banks were okay. Yeah, our housing, and even our housing market kept going up.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it never even went down.
So it's like the tortoise and the hare, right? We're slow but steady, and I think relatively speaking, Canada's good and will be good. Having said that, look, we're mired in debt because of all the things that had to be done, including CERB and whatnot, which is going to have effects for a long time to come. We talked about supporting restaurants as an example. There are many areas that are going to shut down, sadly. So I think there's going to be a lot of pain, and that's going to require greater ingenuity on behalf of all of us as citizens and individuals to find the lanes where we can nonetheless thrive and at least stay above water, even during these really, really difficult times.
I appreciate it, man. Jay, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Michelle,
love you, brother.
My wife Michelle called me right before we were going on, and she was like, you make sure you tell Jay and Renee I love them, and she misses you guys.
Love her too. Love you guys. Love you guys. Let's get together soon.
Let's absolutely do it. Thanks for joining us. This is First Name Basis Podcast. We will be publishing this on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, LinkedIn, Facebook. You mentioned the social channel. Rachel, our amazing producer, is going to put it there. So thanks so much again, Jay, for being on with us.
Yeah, man. Talk to you soon, brother.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.
All the best.
Take care.